Welcome to Class 1, also known as Class 1. Normally it's Class 3 and Class 1, but it's only Class 1. Right? You get it. Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right. Archer gets it. Christopher's confused.
What?
Okay. What? Okay. So I've gotten a lot of requests on the internets from the gawking rabble to do a lecture on the London. And I was like, all right. Okay, although I'm not doing that, but I said all right. Okay, so what I'm going to do is something very similar. There's 3 openings that sort of look the same. I've played all 3. I won't show my own games because this class is supposed to be educational. The openings in question, obviously, are the London, the Colle, and the Torre attack. Now, the Colle, named after Grandmaster
System.
Colle, right? System. And what was Colle's first name? Yeah, Edgar. And what country was he from?
England.
Belgium. Yeah, and I know because I live in Belgium. Okay, then there's the London system, and that's London. And then the Torre attack confuses the audience, especially the Asian people in the audience, because one of the most famous Asian players of all time is Torre. From what country?
Philippines.
Philippines. There you go. We got a right answer. Eugenio Torre. He's played in approximately, man, I'm going to get killed on the internet here because they're going to look it up, 20 Olympiads for the Philippines. They're going to be like, he played in 26, you idiot. Okay. So I think he's played in more Olympiads than anybody ever in any country ever. And he's still not bad. He's not too good anymore because, what school he went to?
Old school.
Old school. Yeah, he was playing Olympiads in the 60s. And he still is. So, yeah. Anyway, he was the only good player from the Philippines for like 40 years. He was really good. He beat Karpov, and Karpov was world champion. So he wasn't kidding. However, after giving you that long spiel about Eugenio Torre, the purpose of that spiel was to tell you he has nothing to do with what we're talking about. It's Carlos Torre. From which country?
Spain.
Mexico. Okay, close. Okay, so the Torre attack is named after Carlos Torre, and then the London system and the Colle. Now, when I play the Colle, which is pretty rare, but I play it, I play the Zuckertort Colle. And we're not going to talk about that today. The Zuckertort Colle is where white Finegold is queen bishop, which we're not going to look at. So what I did was, basically this lecture is from white's point of view. So white's going to give the smackdown. And the reason I picked these 3 openings is they have the same pawn structure. White makes the same moves, except white's dark squared bishop is on 3 different squares. That's why it's 3 different openings. Okay, so we'll start at the beginning. That's a good place to start. Not like 2 weeks earlier. Terrible. Hopefully you guys have seen every second of Rick and Morty. Okay. Normally Morty's not murdering people, but in that episode, I mean, it was the Purge, so it was okay. All right, so this is Rufus and Doofus, but I like this game, and you guys don't know it because it's Rufus and Doofus. Let's see, can you guys see everything? Man, you guys see less than when I'm blindfolded. Terrible. Okay, this game is between 2 players who were sort of iffy from 14 years ago. The other games are from longer ago. Now, the first game is the Colle. By the Colle, I mean the London system. Okay, I got confused. Now, when I was a kid, and you talked about the London system, it seemed as though white was playing knight f3 on move 2, and then bishop f4. And nowadays, everybody plays bishop f4 on move 2. Now, let's see if you guys are up on the latest theory. Which super grandmaster that at least 3 of you have heard of? It's possible all 5 of you have heard of him. In fact, it's possible. For his whole career, played the London system.
Carson likes it.
He likes. I said his whole career. He's like sort of stole it. I would have said world champion. I would have said something funny, not grandmaster. And then I was like, I wonder if you've heard of him. Come on, I would have known it was 5 for 5 then. He's American.
Fabi? Was it so? Better so. Super GM. American.
They're just like naming grandmasters, hoping they get it right. He's very old. He's in his mid-40s. So he's not top. He's played for the World Championship. He played a World Championship match against Karpov. He was the best player in the U.S. for like 10 years, at least.
He still plays in his 40s?
Mm-hmm. And his Pokemon handle is gotta catch 'em all. I'm not even kidding. Gotta Komsky. Gotta catch 'em all. Yeah, that's not a joke either. It's good at Pokemon. Anyway, Komsky always plays the London, and at various points in his career, only he played the London. And by only he, I mean of people who were good. Okay, obviously everybody at the local level plays the London. Okay, and eventually Carlsen started playing it, and then that became more popular. And now everybody plays Bishop F4 on move 2, especially Peter Giannato's, especially. And this gives White some advantages over other move orders, which I'm not privy to, although obviously if you're going to play Bishop F4 and the issue which you might have is your B2 pawn can get attacked by Queen B6 later, and then you're like, do I sacrifice my pawn? Do I defend it? Well, if I'm going to play Bishop F4 anyway, I think you should play it as early as possible, because then you give Black less opportunity to attack it. I mean, now if Black wants to attack it, he has to start doing it after Bishop F4. If you play Knight F3 and he plays C6 or C5, he could do it more quickly. The other reason is when people play the London, it used to be they just closed their eyes and made the same 8 or 9 moves, which still most people do. However, you can try to punish Black if Black tries to play too aggressively by playing Knight C3 and sometimes Knight B5. Now, obviously, Knight B5 and Bishop F4 is attacking the C7 pawn. Knight F3 has nothing to do with that. So Bishop F4 is more accurate, I guess, in one sense. But all right. Now, what's funny is this game was played in 2005. I don't think people thought Bishop F4 was more accurate then. It was just a way of playing. Okay, so we get the London system, and Black can basically do anything, and this is the big negative of the London system for a lot of people, is Black can play the way he's playing now, or Black can fianchetto his bishop, like I do, or Black can put this bishop out before playing e6, which I've also done. And so if you have the white pieces, you can ignore what your opponent's doing and just make the same moves, which is what a lot of people do, but Black has more than one way to get a reasonable game. e6 isn't a move that I like, but it's okay. Okay, and you can see this structure, this pawn structure here. That's basically what we're talking about in the lecture, and the London system is where the bishop is on f4, the Torre attack is where the bishop is on g5, and when the bishop is on c1, that's called... We talked about it when the lecture started. Torre London, the Belgian guy, Colle. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Now, it turned out Colle was not happy with his opening choice and didn't play chess for 5 years because he was... I made the joke up on the spot, so it's not too funny. He's melancholy. Yeah. Okay. Then he was like, wait, this opening's okay. All right. What? There's noise in the chess center. Okay, the drug deal went bad. All right. So c3, knight c6, knight f3, and this... well, let's make another move. Okay. So you see where these pieces are. If you play the London, that's almost always where your pieces are. However, I recommend if your opponent fianchettos their bishop, which Black did not do this game, that you don't put your bishop on d3. And when you play bishop d3, which is a good square for the bishop, you're worried the guy's going to play e5, e4, and fork a piece. Luckily, Karen's out of the room. Otherwise, she would be having, you know, what do the veterans have?
PTSD?
Yeah, because if I was a guessing man, I would say in blitz, bullet, and slow chess, It's happened about 100 times. E4 forking the bishop and knight. That would be my guess. We're in Karen's games. Yeah. Then she's like, oh, God, again. Okay. Now, normally when that does happen, that's because black has played g6, bishop g7, and later plays d6 and e5. And then after e5, e4. So with this pawn structure, it's not going to happen. If black plays the move e5, I mean, you can take it. So when the black pawn's not on d6, I'm not really worried about that. Yeah. Okay, so this structure of pieces that white has, like this, that's going to be what we see in all the games today, except the bishop is on c1 in the Colle, f4 in the London, and g5 in the Torre. Okay. Now, I didn't want to show games where white won a 95 move endgame because then that sort of defeats the purpose of the lecture. The point is, in these openings, normally white's getting a kingside attack when white wins. When white doesn't win, then white isn't checkmating black. So these are all attacking games that ended pretty quickly. Now, one thing I'd like to say, and it might happen in the games, it might not, if black does play c5, which he did do this game, and he takes on d4, which he might do later, usually, whether you're playing the London, the Colle, or the Torre, you can take back with the c pawn or the e pawn. Which way is considered the most correct for white? Take back with the c pawn or the e pawn? This is the c pawn, and that's the e pawn.
Yeah, with him. C pawn. Towards the center.
Towards the center is the normal, way of playing chess. That's why it's a trick question. It's not really a trick. It's just a simple trick. So here, because we have a nice pawn structure here, and we're defending b4 from the pieces, and we like to have an open e-file, taking with the e pawn is considered better. Now, I'm not saying that that's going to happen, but it might happen. Let's see if it happens. Now, I'd like to go back 1 second. Okay, now we can continue. I went back 1 second. Right, Christopher? Yeah. So, black made a move that I would make, or consider. Black played bishop d7. What? That's got nothing to do with anything. Okay, so that move doesn't make any sense. All right, a6. I'm not a fan of that move either. Now here, obviously, black wants to play b5, an attack on the queen side. Thinking if I was white, I wouldn't really mind that, but I wasn't white. So he played a4 and stopped that. And a4 is a positional move, grabbing space on the queen side that isn't really related to checkmating your opponent playing in the center. But the moves a4 and a6 were played anyway. So maybe that's why you haven't heard of either player. Okay, bishop e7. And I think more common for the black pieces is not playing bishop to d7 and playing bishop to d6. So this is a sort of a passive way for black to play. Okay, white plays knight e5. Typical move in the London. We have e5 for our knight, and sometimes our queen comes out, and sometimes we play f4, and we attack. And he took. Now we can put my theory to the test. Took with the e-pawn, castles, queen f3. Okay, so this is a position where black has little to no counterplay. This is the kind of position we see when the players aren't very good and black gets smushed. So black is making legal moves that look okay, don't look that bad, and then he gets checkmated. And that's why people play the London, because black should have some system he plays where he sort of knows what he's doing and has like an idea. And here he's just like, I move my pieces out, I resign. And obviously, when you play e6 early, which black did, your white squared bishop isn't very happy. And that's, when you're playing the London and you're white, your bishop is getting out here. So when you play e3, you're outside the pawn chain, which won't happen in the Colle. Now, of course, if I was black and my bishop was on c8 and I played e6, I would be worried about that. So I would try to fianchetto my bishop and play knight e4, or I would try to play e5 later so my bishop could get out, or I would play b6 and bishop a6 and trade these bishops. That would be my plan, one of those plans. He didn't do any of that. He played bishop d7 and did nothing. So, I mean, pawn structure-wise, it's okay for black, but this bishop should not be there. Now, the most famous game I played in the London system was my game with whom?
Carlsen.
Magnus Carlsen, right. And when I played Magnus, and we got this position, I mean similar position, I played bishop f5. Okay, and this is my game with Magnus. See, that looks sort of similar. Okay, and I forgot what happened. I think I won, but maybe the whole world was destroyed. Something happened like that. Okay, so also possibly I lost. All right, so queen f3, black plays rook e8. I don't know. Okay, now, again, this lecture is from white's point of view. We have to see what white's supposed to do. Now, one of the negatives of weaker players is they play okay, some of them. Then, when their opponent doesn't play okay, and the weaker player can punish them, the weaker player doesn't do anything, just keeps playing okay, and the other player who's not playing well doesn't get punished. So obviously, books like Chess Master versus Chess Amateur by your two favorite authors, Max Erve and Walter Meiden, right? Those are your two favorites. One was a world champion. They would show games where one player was a good player and the other wasn't very good, and they got crushed. This is a good example. Now, I'm not saying white's a good player and black isn't, but it sure seemed like it. Okay, so rook e8, that doesn't do anything. Okay, so g4, white decided I'm going to checkmate black because black can't do anything. So white's just going to push his kingside pawns and attack the black king, and black can't really do much about it. So he played g6. Obviously, you don't want to move pawns in front of your king, but eventually he's going to have to. h4, and the attack plays itself. Always play bishop f8, h5. If you guys are paying attention and you're not, this reminds me of yesterday's game between, Raj is paying a little attention, very little, Carlsen Mamedyarov. Carlsen played h4, h5 the first 7 moves of the game. Okay. Here, unlike the Mamedyarov game, black has no counterplay. White's king is safe and black can't do anything. In Mamedyarov's game, Magnus's king ran all over the board, very suspicious. The game was a draw, of course, because all the games were draws. Yesterday they were. Okay, this isn't a tournament that ended a while ago. Zagreb. Yeah, that's in Archer's favorite country.
What?
Yeah, right? You're my only hope. No?
Croatia.
Yeah, Croatia. There you go. Yeah. What's Croatia known for? Remember, the answer has to be funny. What's the funniest answer?
Nothing.
The people are very tall. Well, no, it's serious. Yeah, people are tall. Yeah, that guy's nodding behind you. People are tall in Croatia. Yeah, they're not kidding. I thought they were kidding, but I was like, you're not kidding. Yeah. Okay, so h5. Man, now basically, I should be kicked out of the lecture room now, and Ginger GM should replace me, because white played h4, h5. So he's pretty happy about that. Okay, bishop g7. But you know it's my lecture, because I got Perrier and coffee. So, and the coffee was made with Perrier. No. Okay. HG. Okay, that move is well, right?
Yeah.
Right? HG Wells.
Yeah.
No. All right. What? He reads a lot, so he has a chance, right?
Yeah.
There you go. Okay, HG. We got the open H file. So that's pretty good for white. Bishop G5. Now it's a Torre attack. The game has to stop. No. All right, so he pins the knight on F6. It's very easy to unpin that knight. You could resign and then reset the board. Then you wouldn't be pinned anymore. Otherwise, I don't know how you unpin. Okay, so if it's white's move, it seems to me this move is really winning.
Yeah.
Wins a piece.
And then if it's black's move and black takes, white takes back, also winning. So this seems like fun for black. He's getting mated on the H file and his knight spin, and knight takes, so, I don't know, bishop c8? What else can I do? Oh, knight beat, I missed that. Setting up for the next game. That's sort of like bishop c8. That way he can take, okay, I understand. All right. Queen h3, putting it in h. And, well, I don't see like a mate in one here, but black made a very bad move. That's good because we want to look at the next game. So he sort of helped us out that way. So again, black can't do anything. Black has no counterplay. This is the reason people play the London. They want to put their knight on e5, and they want to open the h-file. Now, this way of opening the h-file, to me, is less common than the other way. This is a less common way. White played h4, h5, and took on g6. That opens the h-file. Another way to open the h-file, so we see similar attacks, is black plays bishop d6 at some point. In fact, let's play it now because it's my lecture. White retreats and they trade on g3. That's another way to open the h-file. So I've seen them both. I've seen that. Okay, now here black blundered, but I'm guessing if I turn the engine on, it just resigns for black. That would be my guess. And he played queen b6, which is just a very simple tactical blunder. Finally making a threat. Making a threat, not his forte. Okay, and white has a very simple way to win here, which I'm sure the audience all knows. Yeah, and now if the queen was on d8, which it was, we would take with the queen. But the queen's not on d8, so we take with the bishop, and we get checkmated. So if you play the London, you look at games like that and go, yeah, that's why I play the London. I play knight e5, queen f3, push my kingside pawns, and I meet my opponent. My opponent makes no threats. Okay? That's the goal of the London. And a lot of people who win with the London, that's what it looks like. It looks like a 20-move checkmate. Okay? Now, if black plays more accurately, then you could lose in 25 moves like I did. But it's an endgame. So I played much better. Okay. Next game is from everybody's favorite world champion. Yeah, everybody's favorite. And he's playing, I think the guy's nickname was Doofus, so that was his middle name. Yeah. This was in the double Düsseldorf. And as you all know, I like the way Karen leaves the room whenever I'm ready to make fun of Karen, basically. So, yeah, the Düsseldorf, the double D city, right? And hopefully Archer doesn't know what that means. Okay, so the world champion's white, 1908. That means he was not the world champion. Now, this very intelligent audience, and I found this audience, I was watching a Three Stooges episode, and they were the jury. So that's how I found this audience. Very intelligent audience. Man, that's one of my favorite Three Stooges. They even refer to the jury as being very intelligent. Yeah, then they show them, they don't look too good. Anyway, you all know what year Alekhine actually became world champion. He's like, who's Alekhine? What are you talking about? Maybe Karen knows. The year Alekhine became world champion. Yeah, come on, Christopher, get your stuff out of there. All right, so if I'm not incorrect, which I probably am, it was 1927. I think Capablanca was 21 to 27, slightly before my time, slightly. Okay, so 1908, Alekhine probably wasn't very good. All right, he's probably okay. All right, so the double Düsseldorf, okay, because ChessBase knows what they're doing. Now, you'll notice E3 was played instead of bishop f4. Bishop f4 is the London, right, Christopher?
Yeah.
Okay, what's E3?
The Colle.
The Colle. Okay, very suspicious because I don't think Colle was playing chess in 1908. Although maybe he was. Colle was pretty old. Okay, so looks sort of similar. Okay, and it looks like the last game, except the bishop's not on f4, right? Same kind of piece structure. Now, normally, white is waiting to play e4. White castles first. White plays c3 first. If it's the Colle-Zucker Torre, which I play, plays b3 and bishop b2. But Alekhine just plays e4 with obvious threats. Bam. Okay, so they traded. Traded again. Castles. Bishop g5. So Alekhine isn't castling, it isn't playing c3. He's seizing the initiative. Okay, now his opponent is an unknown player, so he must have played a move that you should never play.
F6.
Queen e8, gotcha. Yeah. Even back then they knew f6 was no good. Okay, queen e8, that's not the first move I would play. Castles, f5. So f5 is a very aggressive move that low-rated players like because it makes a threat. Unfortunately, this pawn's not the best. There's an open file here, and that pawn's not defended so good. Also, it weakens the e5 square, which he takes care of immediately by playing e5, and now he wants to play e4. Fortunately, black is opening up the center and playing aggressively when these pieces aren't out. So white has all his minor pieces on, black doesn't. Okay, rook e1, that seems pretty scary. Queen h5. Is it tactical blunder? I guess he has to play knight takes knight check and then move his queen and then have a bad position. But then we wouldn't see the brilliant tactics. So that's no good. Okay. So this is a Colle, which is considered boring. And then you guy gets checked. Whoa. Wow. That was exciting. What? Good old chess base. And it goes back to this position. Okay. I never know whether to blame the software or the hardware. The answer is fries. All right. Man, you guys must watch my stream. Yeah, because you guys, whenever I do anything that's on the stream for 1 second, you guys die laughing. So, because they're not that funny. But, yeah. Those are some stream people. Okay. Now, remember something very important. Don't cross the streams. Because that's, yeah, exactly. All right. Who are you going to call Archer?
Ghostbusters.
Very good. Wow, I didn't think Archer would get that. That's pretty quick. Huh. Okay. I'm trying to figure out if I should make fun of the female Ghostbusters, but I didn't see the movie because I'm like everybody else in America. Okay, so he played knight takes knight, and you'll notice that's a discovered attack because I said so. White is now attacking the queen. Okay, now obviously it doesn't really matter because black knew after knight takes knight, there's only one way to get his piece back. But do you guys know it?
Queen takes bishop.
Queen takes g5, yeah. Right. Now, when I say never play f6, that's because of what happens in the game. Normally, f5 is okay, but f5, that's... When you play f5, you're trying to play aggressively. All f5 does is opens up the black king, and it blocks this bishop. So that's... Okay, so if you have the black pieces here and it's your move, you should play f7, recommended by me. Yeah. Okay, so obviously bishop c4 check. Okay. Yeah, and this obviously is what he missed. Now, it seems to me knight f7 check wins the exchange, so that should win. Yeah, so black's play is pretty bad because knight f7 is just a simple move. But Alekhine played a much better move. Wow, a very impressive move.
Queen.
Only Archer can find it. You!
Queen d5.
That's why your name's not Archer. Archer with the right answer.
Queen takes d6.
Yeah. And as per usual, I was right. Only Archer could find it. The rest of the audience looks confused, especially Raj. He's the most confused of them all.
Yeah, let's see.
Karen's like, I have no son. She's like, queen takes d6.
Well, then it's knight f7 check, then rook takes, then rook e8.
Yeah. See, Alekhine understood, even 60 years before I was born, always play bishop f8. Okay? And obviously, if white tries to play rook e8 check, well, black has a bishop that can go to f8 and rook can go to f8. But if there's no bishop that can go to f8, rook e8's going to be mate. So he played queen takes d6. Yeah. And then queen g2, which is funny, and then he resigned. But it was funny. Not sure what the point of it was, but it was funny. Anyway, the correct way of playing for the audience is knight check, and then, yeah. If there was a bishop on d6, we could just play rook f8 here. But there's no bishop on d6. Yeah. So after queen d6, black could resign, but he played a funny move instead. And then he resigned. All right. So that game, black didn't do a good job with his queenside pieces. And when I give lectures, I often talk about black not getting his bishop on c8 out. Then in the next lecture, I talk about black not getting his bishop on c8 out. And I keep talking about it, and they keep not doing it. Now it's 1908, and nobody's heard of him, so I'll forgive him. But I won't forgive you guys, unless you're playing me, if your bishop is here the whole game. You got to get your bishop out. And black played very aggressively f5, e5 for not having his pieces developed, so he got punished. White's pieces are all great. Rook e1, knight e5, bishop c4. Everything's great. Okay, so that was the Colle, which is considered boring, but didn't look too boring. Exciting. It's nothing to sneeze at. That's pretty exciting. Okay, the last one is your favorite world champion, Tigran Petrosian. Right, Raj?
Iron Tigran. That's
right. The iron, yeah, he ruled with an iron fist. And he played Iron. He was the first Iron Man. Then they replaced him. Yeah. When I went to Moscow in 1984, Petrosian was sick. He was supposed to lecture, but he did not. But everybody else did, so that was exciting. And then, as you all know, most of them don't know it, there's another Tigran Petrosian who's a grandmaster. And if I remember what I read, which is, I don't read too much, so I'm not sure if that's good or bad, he was named after Tigran Petrosian. Tigran Petrosian. And Tigran Petrosian now is about 2650 FIDE. He's pretty good. He's played in the U.S. And I have a lot of Petrosian stories, because I like stories. Not this one, the one you never heard of, the other one. And I'll tell you the other one's stories. In the Chicago Open, approximately 8 years ago, approximately, the other Tigran Petrosian played in the Chicago Open. Now, this one had a good excuse for not playing. He's been dead for like 25 years. So okay. And when they found out he was playing, a couple of the directors overheard them like, wow, Petrosian's coming. And they thought it was the world champion who had been dead for 20 years. And I was like, well, he's not coming. It's another guy. Okay. That's a relatively funny story. I have a better story, though, from my perspective. I was playing in the U.S. Championship in Tulsa. It was 2007 or 2008, I don't remember. But it was one of them, because it was in Tulsa. So I don't recommend going to Tulsa, by the way. But anyway, so I learned something from the tournament. And I was in the analysis room analyzing one of my games. And there was a guy standing behind me. I didn't know who it was. And he said something like, Bishop e3. I don't know if it was my game or somebody else's game. I think it was mine, I don't know. And I said, I don't know who that guy is, but he's better than me. By the way he said the move. And I said, who's that guy? And it was Tigran Petrosian, the one who was alive. Not this one. Yeah. And I said, oh, he is better than me. That's right. He's a lot better than me. But I could tell he was better than me. He was Var's coach at the tournament, because Var's Armenian, Var Kobian. And obviously Petrosian's Armenian. Okay. Now this is the good Petrosian. So Petrosian is known for two things. Being the most boring player who ever lived and sacking his queen and mating you. Those are the two things he does. So either he sacks his queen and mates you or the game's a draw. Okay, I wonder which one this is. Okay, so Petrosian was a great tactician, and by that I mean he didn't blunder. You guys blunder even when you're not playing. You're like, I hung my queen and I wasn't even playing chess, right? Petrosian never hung anything ever, so when he did, that means you were losing. Okay, so this is Petrosian versus a guy that I've heard of, but you haven't, in the Soviet Championship in '49. So he became world champion in '63? That sounds right. And who did Petrosian beat to become world champion? Anybody?
Tall?
Yeah, that's close. Couldn't be got the right first name. If you know Tall's first name, you know the answer.
Kyle Botvinnik?
Botvinnik, yeah. Yeah, and then Petrosian had a couple world championship matches with Spassky. Okay. So, anyway, Petrosian's pretty good, and he's white in '49, So he's pretty young. Young Petrosian, that sounds exciting. Sort of like young Steinitz. Okay, so we looked at the London and we looked at the Colle. So it's time for the Torre. Okay, so that means, which move did he play here?
Bishop G5.
Bishop G5. Okay. Now, I have a very famous win in the Torre, and when I say famous, it's not too famous. However, everybody's favorite employee at the St. Louis Chess Club,
Mike Hummer?
Mike Hummer. Mike Hummer's favorite game of chess is one that I played. And it started like this against somebody who it's all about. Joel Benjamin. It's all about the Benjamins. Now, this pairing was incorrect. I should always be black against Joel Benjamin. That way the pairing is Benjamin Finegold. But I was white, so it was a mistaken, the pairings were mistaken. Yeah, and I've played Joel Benjamin many times, in different countries too. And in the US Championship, I've beaten Joel Benjamin twice. And once was in St. Louis, and it started like this, and I sacked a piece, and his king ran around, and I won. And Mike Hummer likes that game. I just pushed all my pawns and sacked a piece, and I won. So Mike Hummer is like, wow, that's my kind of game. Okay, so in the London, the bishop goes to f4. In the Colle, it stays at c1. Now it's on g5. A lot of grandmasters don't like the Torre attack for white, because in the long run, it's very common for this bishop to trade for this knight, and grandmasters like their bishops. So they don't necessarily play the Torre attack very often. Okay, c5 is the most aggressive reply. Black wants to play queen b6 and attack this pawn, and he's putting pressure on the center. And then he played bishop e7, which is very passive. That's not in line with c5. Yeah, and once white plays knight bd2, queen b6 does nothing. I can play rook b1, I can play knight c4, so it sort of gets rid of that. Okay, so they just play sort of a normal position. And again, you've seen this position, this is the third time, and the first time the bishop was on f4, and Alekhine's bishop was on c1, although he didn't play c3, he played e4. He didn't, because c5 wasn't played. So when c5 is played, we got to protect our pawn. So this sort of triangle pawn structure, I'm trying to make this joke, I can't remember his last name. Okay, I finally remembered it. Take two. This kind of pawn structure was recommended by Phil Jackson. Man, this audience isn't going to get that, but you at home will get it.
Bulls coach from the 90s.
Bulls and Lakers. Yeah, and what did he like? What was the joke about?
Triangle formation.
Triangle offense. Yeah, your favorite offense.
Sure.
Yeah. All you do is watch the NBA. You do nothing else. Yeah. I was telling Karen yesterday, a guy she's never heard of, that you never heard of, is going to sign today for $141 million. Usually you heard of those guys, but no. Kemba Walker. No.
What?
Yeah, you're right. 141 million, you never heard of him. So that's, if you'd heard of him, like 241 million. Okay. Yeah, he's going to sign with the Celtics today. And for you guys, it's a few years ago or something. Okay. So he's already retired. Okay. So castles. So Petrosian's got the setup the way he likes it. 95. Now again, a lot of low-rated players, especially if they're from India, what do? Vishwanathan. Castle, queen e2, rook e1, a3, offer draw. Okay. Petrosian would probably like that, like offer draw. Okay, knight e5, rawr, attack. In all the games today, we saw white attack. Now, what does knight e5 do? It allows our queen to get out there, and maybe we'll play f4, and we'll start attacking. Okay, he takes, the knight has to move away. So now black's king isn't defended very well. And Petrosian retreats because he wants to keep pieces on the board for the attack. Trading pieces makes it harder to attack. Okay, f5. Now, normally when they play f5, blocking your bishop, if you want to attack, you would take en passant. But this was 1949, so probably there was no en passant rule. Right, Christopher?
Yeah.
He's a kid, so I could probably trick him. Yeah. No, they had the en passant rule. Yeah. Okay. So Petrosian did something else that you do in queen pawn openings, when they play f5 and you want to attack, this also happens in the French defense sometimes. You can see it's sort of a French pawn structure, is white later plays g4 and attacks that way. Again, not very Petrosian-like, you would think. Okay, he plays h4 first. c4, b5, and now white has the d4 square, obviously, and g4. Now, if you told me this was a game where white was a world champion, but I won't tell you who's playing, probably Petrosian's last, and who I would guess it is. But it's Petrosian. Okay, it was 1949. A lot of times when the world champions aren't world champion yet, and they're much younger, they play sort of a different style, play aggressive style. Okay, so this is an all-in style. If white doesn't win, white's king is probably not very good. Okay, once again, as with other games, black didn't move his queenside pieces. Okay, b4, crashing through on the queenside. Knight g5, g6. It's not a move I would want to play. Probably he was afraid of queen h5. Chess is scary, right? Okay. And now, this is a overworked theme. Why can't white play queen takes d5 check? Why not? That's an easy question. There's a queen on d8. Right. So that means if the black queen moves somewhere, we could play queen takes d5 check. So that means the black queen's not going to move anywhere. Well, the queen and bishop are attacking the knight, but I don't think the queen wants to go there because the queen takes d5 check. So he plays h5. And he says, you can keep taking on g5, but I'm going to play queen takes d5 check, attacking the king and the rook. So, got to watch it. And the knight, because the bishop isn't defending the knight anymore. So normally you couldn't play h5 because the g5 knight's not protected, but the queen is doing too much. So h5 was played. Okay, knight d3 check, confusing the audience. Getting rid of this white squared bishop. hg, hg, queen takes. It's the same tactic. If you take on g5 twice, I have queen takes d5 check, forking your king and rook. Takes on c3, takes on c3, takes, queen a5. So white's up a pawn, but both kings seem pretty bad. Pretty bad. But once again, we're on move 22, and black hasn't moved these yet. White's bishop is better than black's bishop, because white's bishop's attacking, and black's bishop hasn't moved at all. And since we have opposite color bishops, as is well known, that favors the attacking side, because the bishop can't defend against the other bishop. So white improves his bishop. How does he do that? Even better square than g5. It's a good thing the bishop's on g5. If it was a London or a Colle, then the bishop would be here and, here.
Bishop f6.
Yeah. And the truth hurts. Here comes the white rook. Okay, rook e8, not a good move. Queen d4. The queen can come this way. The queen can come this way. The queen's on a dark square, so the white square bishop can't attack it. King f7. And now, man, Petrosian was known as a boring positional player. You may change your mind after what he does here. This move is just a great move in a lot of attacking games. I'm thinking of a Kasparov game. I'm thinking of an MVL game where like this move just always wins. It just provides more attack. And this is actually very good example of a clearance sacrifice followed by another clearance sacrifice. That's not easy to see. 2 clearance sacrifices in a row. And it's the same clearance. So basically, he wants to move his queen somewhere, but it's illegal because of 2 white pieces. He gets them both out of the way. Man, you don't see that too often.
E6.
E6 check. Right. And we don't want that pawn on E6. We want our queen to come in there. That pawn's just blocking white's attack. Okay. Now, this king takes looks a little suspicious. It might be the best move, but it looks a little suspicious. Okay. The move that looks like the best move is the move that he played. Took with the rook. That way his king can, get out of there. Right? If he takes with the bishop, he's trapping his king even more. Then the black king is just stuck in there. Yeah. And Archer's like, I heard what Grandmaster Finegold just said, so I know the winning move. I remember what he just said about the clearance sacrifices. And again, even after watching this game, if I didn't know Petrosian was white, I ain't picking Petrosian to be white. I'm picking like Tall to be white. Archer with the right answer.
Bishop d8.
That's what your mom wanted to play. Bishop d8, right? And she's like, no. In fact, I still don't like it. Yeah, that's right. Confusing the audience, except for Archer.
The queen covers f6, though.
The queen can't go to f6. There's a rook here. Also, the bishop's hanging. This is a clearance for the queen to go to h8. And by go to h8, he's going to preface it with rook h7 check. And then queen h8's mate. I guarantee it. Notice how the queen is attacked. Did you notice that? And if you save your queen, I'm going to play rook h7 check and queen h8 mate. However, black prevented all of that the usual way.
Resigning?
Yeah, he resigned. That prevented everything. Otherwise, you get a lot of trouble. So that, e6 and bishop d8, wow. That's, I was going to do that, but I didn't want to. Yeah, so the end would be this. Rook check, and then the king could go anywhere, and then mate. Or the king could go here, and it's still mate. Or e8. Yeah, setting up for the next game. Okay, now again, white opened the H file with h4, h5, and crashed through on the king's side, and in the final position, which was move 26, these pieces still hadn't moved, as per usual, as with all games I look at for some reason. That's a problem people have. They have trouble getting their white square bishop out because they're putting their pawns on white squares. Their bishop can't move. Conversely, in the 3 games we looked at today, the London, the Torre, and the Colle, and the London and Torre, when white played e3, his bishop was already out. And when Alekhine played e3, like 4 moves later, he played e4, then bishop g5. Black's bishop stayed there nice and safe. Not saving black's king, but saving himself. But that wasn't so good, was it? Right. So those were nice attacking games from the white side, and those 3 openings where basically white gets a triangle pawn structure, puts his knights and bishops on the same squares, knight f3, knight to d2, bishop to d3, and we have to decide, is our bishop going to be on c1, the Colle, f4, not the Torre, the other one, the one Karen plays,
London.
the London, and g5, the Torre. Yeah. Now, I've played all 3. Probably I've played the Torre attack the most because I like pitting the guy's knight. Yeah. Now, you can't always play those openings, but you see what the idea is. The idea is white to get a big attack because white has all his pieces out. And one of his ideas is to open the H file or to play e4 and start attacking with all of his pieces. And that's why when I was black against Magnus, my bishop moved on move 3. I went out here. I didn't keep my bishop on c8. You with some question.
So the pawn structure reminds me of like a color-swapped semi-Slav.
That's right.
Is there anything to be learned from those openings?
Well, the semi-Slav, if you're playing e6 and c6 and d5, which is what you indicate, the bishop's on c8. So that would only be like in a Colle. Now, of course, your bishop could go to f5 or g4 and with black, but that's harder to do because you're a tempo down, so you can get attacked on b7 more quickly. Knight e5 is coming. It's actually difficult for black to play this way. It's easier for white. Problem is, when black's playing the semi-Slav, that's very solid and equalizing. So a lot of players with white didn't want to do it for that reason. Why am I playing solid and equalizing? Turns out white's getting big attacks sometimes. And this is why, because of games like this, the ones I just showed you, when I'm black, I'm either playing bishop f5 early, or I play g6, bishop g7, I don't play e6. That way my bishop has some options. Yeah. I don't like the way these games turned out where black just sat there and white started attacking. And he's like, well, how do I defend against that? And the guy's like, well, you're unknown and I'm Petrosian, so you're... And you're unknown and I'm Alekhine, so you're not going to defend, you're just going to lose. And Kamsky, for the most part, who plays the London a lot, isn't playing for me. He likes the London. He likes that position. I understand getting all your pieces out, castling, and having a reasonable game, but the reason most low-rated players play that is for that reason. Stronger players are going for an attack, knight e5, h4, g4, and play for mate. And then if they're successful, it looks good. Obviously, if I show you games black won, you may beg to differ. But from white's point of view. And the reason a lot of people like these openings for white is, white's just making the same moves. He's just putting his pieces like this, and it's just a question of where the bishop goes. So he's playing here, and knight f3, and e3, and c3, and bishop d3, knight d2, and this bishop is either here, here, or here. And the London right now is the most popular. The Torre attack and the Colle are not as popular. But the London is pretty popular now. And the main reason is because Magnus is playing it. If Magnus was playing the Torre attack every game, guess what will be more popular? World champions, the people like to follow the world champions. Then you play exactly like Carlsen, the first 7 moves, and then you don't. Then you just play like you again. Oh, man, the truth hurts. Man, don't want to be doing that. Yeah. Now, for those of you who don't know, which is most of you, Carlsen's black today, and he played a6 and h6 the first 2 moves. So, I don't know. Very suspicious. Yeah. All right, and in the immortal words of Ben Finegold, you get out. Yeah, exactly. I mean, classes, get out.
Classes get out.
Yeah.